That's from a story called The Dream. Look at this shit. Can you believe this shit? All at once, he went into an insane fit. Grabbing his hammer, he smashed his wife's head, killing her instantly. Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be showing some creepy stuff from my childhood that kind of molded my brain in a certain terrifying way, and really some of this stuff really creeped me out and made me sleep with the covers pulled up over my head at night. I got some really scary books here from when I was a kid. Also, I got a scary set of DVDs. I actually think I'm going to show these first because I have a question to you, the audience. Maybe you can help me with something. As you can see here, this is Unsolved Mysteries, Ghosts. And what this set is it's a bunch of different ghost episodes from the original run of Unsolved Mysteries back in the 80s and 90s when Robert Stack was the host, you know, and he had the best voice. He was had a really good eerie quality to his voice, that kind of gravelly sound that he had when he'd narrate at the beginning and end of these stories. And of course, everyone knows how cool the Unsolved Mysteries intro theme is. That theme is great, and it's in all of our heads for eternity. Anyone who watched this show as a child or as a young adult back then, it made a permanent impression on us. And anyway, these are all ghost episodes in this set. But anyway, what I was real sad about is when I bought this years ago, the episode that I remember traumatizing me as a child isn't in this set, even though it was a ghost episode. Now I'm going to tell you what it is, and maybe you can help me find this episode. All I remember from it is there was this little boy, or a little girl, I don't fucking remember for sure. All I know is a little kid was standing far out in his or her yard and looking at his or her house. And you see this empty window, and all of a sudden, in the empty window, a figure moves there, and it's like some kind of head of some sort, a ghost, okay? It just kind of materializes in the window, and when it does, it's super creepy and effective, and it scared the ever-loving shit out of me. I still remember it to this day. And when this set came out back in 2004, 2005, I picked this fucker up at Best Buy with such a quickness. Took it home, watched every goddamn DVD in here, and that episode, that story, that segment is not in this package. I want to know what that was, because I saw it. So, if you guys saw that episode, please tell me what that story was, and so at least I know. And, you know, they have Unsolved Mysteries on, I think on Amazon Prime. I can stream them, actually. But I've been super busy lately, and I don't really have time to go through every single episode at the moment and stream all of them to try to find this one thing. I may do that at some point. If no one can help me find which one it is, I'll have to just go through every fucking episode of Unsolved Mysteries. But if you've seen that episode where the boy's standing in the yard, and then you see through his eyes, you see his POV looking at the house, and it's daytime, and it's a creepy old Victorian looking house, I think. And like I said, the window's empty, but then all of a sudden something materializes in that window, and it's ominous looking, and it's scary. And I would love, please, someone tell me what that episode is. So yeah, great show from my youth, Unsolved Mysteries. I know you guys probably love it too. Another thing you guys probably all like, or most of you anyway, were the scary stories to tell in the dark. That Alvin Schwartz did, and then Stephen Gamble did, those quintessential, horrifying illustrations that he did that just haunted everyone's dreams. This one is a hardback treasury, and it has all three volumes of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's got one, and then it's got more Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and it's got Scary Stories 3 in here. Lots of good stuff, and of course it's the illustrations that send them over the top and haunt our dreams. They're very esoteric and obscure, and just the way he did the drawings, these black and white etchings and lots of shadow and stuff lurking. I mean, it's just so great. Some of my favorite You know, everyone, here's one of my favorite illustrations right here, I'll show you right now, is The Thing. And that was in the first Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And man, when I saw this illustration when I was a little kid, I got this book from the library. And when I took it home and I saw that picture and read the story, man, that really freaked me out. Because as you know, when you read that story, he's a foreshadowing of the main character's death when he's laying on his deathbed. And, you know, that's just really creepy stuff. Here's another super creepy one. That's from a story called The Dream. Look at this shit. Can you believe this shit? I mean, of course that's gonna... What normal, well-adjusted kid is not gonna have nightmares after looking at shit like this? Because it just doesn't make any sense. It's so beyond the realms of normalcy. And I love this stuff. I love it. Here's another great story. It's called Old Susanna. And in the story, there's this girl, and she's in her dorm room with another girl. They're in college, and she keeps hearing singing all night long, and she just wants the singing to stop. Finally, she goes over to where the girl is sleeping, and she pulls up the blanket, and her fucking head's gone. It's been cut off. All right? That's creepy as hell. You know, where was the singing coming from? And then look at the illustration that Stephen Gamble did here. I mean, it doesn't even have anything to do with the story, but the mood. It creates a mood. It embellishes the mood of the story, all right? And just really sends it into extra creepy territory. And Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, this stuff is legendary. And of course, they put out that bastardized version where they took out all of Stephen Gamble's illustrations. And nowadays, it's harder to get the original books. Because the ones that are being put out now don't have Gamble's illustrations. Because everyone thought, you know, all of the people, I guess at the publishing house, they got tired of parents' letters, you know, furious parents saying, what is this filth? You know, these images that our kids are looking at, they're scaring them to death, they're giving them nightmares, they're traumatizing, whatever. So the versions of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark that they're putting out now have totally new illustrations, and they do not capture the mood at all. They're very soft. No more do we have these surrealistic images and nightmarish visions that are in the originals. Instead, it's soft. And it just, you know, it's PG stuff, you know? It's fluff. And I don't like it. So I've bought as many copies as I can. Like this one's a hardcover. I've got another Treasury that's a paperback one, and then I've got individual volumes. These are legendary books. Another thing, a series that I really like are the scariest stories you've ever heard. Okay? There's Scariest Stories You've Ever Heard. There's the first volume. There's the volume 2. Look at the cover for volume 2. How cool is that? Look at that. You got the scary looking, witchy looking guy. Or maybe that's an extremely ugly fucking woman. I don't know. But he or she is beckoning your ass to come inside. Alright? He's going to tell you some scary stories. Got a scary fucking lantern there. This was the first one I read. I read this when I was in 4th grade. I found this book in one of my classrooms when I was in 4th grade. The stories in this are pretty intense. Some of them are pretty intense. There's escaped maniacs killing people, killing entire families, people getting their heads bashed in, just all kinds of creepy stuff. Dead zombies down in a haunted lake, and they pull little kids down to their demise. Just scary shit. So this one's kind of hardcore for a children's book. And then there was the Scariest Stories You've Ever Heard, Part 3. Now, it's not as scary as Part 2. Out of the 3, Part 2's the one that made the impression on me, and it's the one I like best. But I have these other 2 for posterity, just so I have the complete set. Here's one that really freaked me out. Now, when I was in 6th grade, this was in my math class. There were some books in the corner, and I found this book, Phone Call from a Ghost. Now, What is so important about this book is one story and one story only, and it's called Something in the Room. This story, I'm telling you, man, it's one of the most frightening stories ever devised. And if it really is based on something true, that just makes it even more goosebump inducing, okay? It makes my skin crawl. I'm getting chills on my arms right now thinking about this story because it takes me back to when I first read it as a kid. It creeps me out big time. And what the story is about is it's about this family. They move into this house. It's this small, regular suburban house somewhere in Michigan. So you've got an everyday, normal setting. They move into this house. There's this extra bedroom. It's a small bedroom. And it's built like it was an afterthought, like it wasn't a part of the original structure, but they added it later, whoever built this house. And it's ensconced down the hall, kind of away from everything else. And the guy, the father, when they move into the house, he works nights. So he needs to sleep during the day, I guess. He just keeps odd hours because of his fucking job. He's got weird hours. And so instead of sleeping in the main bedroom where there's more noise outside and stuff, he decides to sleep in this little bedroom that's built, like I said, off alone from everything else down a dark hallway. And the problem is whenever he sleeps in this room, and it's a dark room, there's no windows in it or anything, he has hellish nightmares. The first nightmare, there's a closet in the room, and the first nightmare he wakes up, and it's like he's actually awake, but he's having a dream. And in this dream, he walks over to that closet because he heard a sound in it. And when he opens the closet door, there's this dead, decomposing body slumped against the wall inside the closet. And it's got like blood coming down its face. It's severely mutilated. I think there's even some maggots on it. It's just this totally macabre sight. And he wakes up in a fright and he's sweating and he's scared to death. And it's all he can do to go over the closet because now he wants to check. He wants to open the closet and see if that corpse is in there. When he opens the closet, the dead body isn't in there, okay? But it was a very realistic and vivid dream, so it kind of haunts his thoughts. Now, he continues to try a few more times to sleep in that room, and each time he has that same dream where he opens the closet door and there's this dead body in there. It's a rotting corpse. And so finally he just stops sleeping in that room and he starts sleeping back in his normal bedroom, even though he can hear kids playing out in the living room and he can hear people mowing the lawn outside his window in the main bedroom. It's still better than the horrendous nightmares he was having in that room. Well, the problem is that even the family dog is afraid of that room. The other kids, they won't go near that room. There's just this evil aura about that room. And suffice it to say, some really scary shit goes down in this story. Later on, he decides to go back in the room one last time to sleep in there. And when he does, he awakens and he sees this figure standing in the doorway, but it has its back to him and it's wearing a dress. He walks toward this figure, okay? It's a woman wearing a dress, and he puts out his hand on the shoulder, and when it turns around, it's this fucking, once again, it's a corpse, and it's a really skeletal one. Most of the flesh is rotten away, and it has no eyes, just hollow black eye sockets, and it's this close to his face, okay? It pulls him close, and it just makes it has no vocal cords, so it just makes like this hissing sound in his face, and he smells the rotting odor of death and decomposition in his nose. It's scary shit, man. It really creates a great atmosphere. And that story is in this book, Phone Call from a Ghost. And the story that I'm talking about is called Something in the Room. Now, that story, told slightly differently, but basically the same in essence, is in another book that I have up on my shelf somewhere, and that book is called Haunted America. Okay, and I think it's called the same thing in that book. It's called Something in the Room or something like that. And so, and that book is supposedly all the stories are based on some kind of tangible story of sorts. That's creepy if it was really based on some kind of story, even though it may not have happened exactly that way or whatever. I mean, if I don't know whether to believe in that or not. I think it's interesting to believe in stuff like that, or kind of use your imagination and wonder if maybe there are supernatural things like that in the universe. Who knows? But it's scary stuff. So yeah, that's one you might want to pick up and take a look at. I had to put on my fucking reading glasses for this one because I want to give you kind of a taste of this, alright? And I can't remember word for word, so I'm going to read you a couple paragraphs from a couple stories in this one. This one's called Ohio's Ghostly Greats. And as you can see, it's a really low budget affair. Look at this fucking thing. And it's kind of a rare book. It's hard to find, alright? And I checked this book out of, this isn't the one I checked out of the library when I was a kid, but I first found this book when I was a kid in Columbus, Ohio, at a library there. And the stories in this are very grim. They are told in a very matter-of-fact way, and like I said, very grim and blunt. And very violent. Some of them are extremely violent. And I'll just kind of give you a taste of the violence. Here's one right now that's super... This one's not only violent, but it's creepy. And it's just told in a very blunt fashion. Here it is. This one's called Sarah's House. According to the story, Sarah, a witch, practiced black magic in the lonely rural areas around Greer, Ohio and Knox County. Her husband was a very jealous man. One day he caught her with another man. In a fit of rage, he cut off Sarah's head and placed it in a jar. Then he buried the rest of her body along the side of the road. Her tombstone still stands as a grim reminder. The husband was so grieved over what he had done to his wife that he hung himself in the living room of their home. On moonlit nights, if you sneak up to the windows and look in, you can see the image of a man hanging by a rope. Okay, that's part of one. It's just told in a very, you know, that's just brutal. He cut her fucking head off and put it in a jar. Here's another one. Listen to this. Somewhere along US 224, there's an old abandoned farmhouse. Today, its windows are boarded shut, just as they have been for 30 years. The owner was going to the hospital for an operation. In order to make sure his family would be safe, he nailed down the windows. This guy's fucking nuts already. All at once, he went into an insane fit. Grabbing his hammer, he smashed his wife's head, killing her instantly. Next, he stalked down his 6 children, murdering them as well. The neighbors heard the cries, but by the time they got there, he had hung himself in the silo. So you get a taste of what I'm saying. What the fuck? All these people killing their families and then hanging themselves? So yeah, you kind of get the idea. I mean, this book is just really grim. There's a lot of stuff like that in here. Just people being butchered in their fucking house, people committing suicide. There's also supernatural stories where, like, groups of teenagers are driving down a dark country road and then they hear a banging on the back of the trunk, and when the kids in the back seat look behind them, they see a fucking severed, cut off head just bouncing around on the back trunk. Creepy shit, man. So yeah, if you guys probably know what I mean, this book is so fucking old. Look. Piece of it just fell off. A piece of the binding shit that holds it together. I guess it should be holding it a little bit more gentle, huh? So yeah, if you guys like stuff like this, scary stories, or if you have any idea about that episode from the Unsolved Mysteries series, I'd really, leave me a comment, leave me a like, and if you haven't subscribed to my fucking channel, please subscribe. I think there's a lot of stuff on my channel you'd enjoy, and so that's enough scary stories and childhood memories of fright for tonight. And I'll see you guys next time.